Go.
Recording in progress.
Hey folks, Roland Martin here, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered, founder of the Black Star Network. I'm coming to you live from the MGM Grand. My man Jalen Rose is having his Celebrity Golf Classic, and so the parents' party is happening right now. But it didn't stop me from joining the Wind of Black Men called. We had a phenomenal response on Monday. Some 55,000 folks signed up for the call. We raised $1.4 million. It's been lots and lots of intensity. A lot of people really responding. In fact, it's interesting. Y'all may have seen this. I'm going to send it to Keenan, and we can play it later. There was a young lady whose dad was not interested. She said he is not going to vote. She went on TikTok and told this story. Well, she said she saw the notice on my Instagram or TikTok page or whatever. She sent it to her dad, and then on Monday night, she kept calling her dad, trying to figure out where was he. He wasn't returning her phone calls. She found out later he spent more than 3 hours on the Wind of Black Men call, and then he texted her and he said, "I'm absolutely voting for Kamala Harris." So don't think for a second that you sending this information out cannot impact men or women who are sitting on the fence, who are choosing the couch over voting. And so it's critically important that we have good information, fresh information that you can use to talk to other people. Our co-hosts are joining us right now. Let's right now go to Khalil Thompson. He's executive director of Women of Black Men. I was just with Khalil, National Urban League in New Orleans. Khalil, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Good to see you down in New Orleans in the Big Easy. Hope you had your beignets and had your fill. Happy to be back here with all of you. Excited to have this conversation and keep the conversation going. Tonight is just one step further to November 3rd. We want to make sure we are engaging every single Black man in our community that comes out and votes and does their civic duty. Roland, I'm going to kick it back to you to introduce the rest of our co-hosts.
All right, then. So, I'm going to be muting and unmuting because I don't want the music here to become overbearing. Let's now go to Mike Blake with Kairos. Mike.
Going on, Fred? Good to see everybody. Appreciate everybody for being on the line. Shout out to all the leaders, Roland, Q, Khalil, Bakari, and every man that's out here right now. So everybody, first and foremost, let's say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to rock it with us. Thank you for being consistent. Thank you for your excitement. Let us be very clear that your support will help us to help the people. And so we're going to mobilize in that way. Earlier today, voter protection efforts launched with the campaign. So for everyone that is a lawyer on the line that wants to be involved in voter protection across the country, in particular the 7 states that we talk about, being Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, please rock with us and join with us there. Secondly, as you're thinking about ways to be a part of this next movement, we need you to get people engaged in the respective states. There are offices that are doing efforts across the country. When people are asking, well, what can I do? What you can do, I always tell people, doors and dollars. So your donation allows us to grow the organization, but we need your phone calls and your phone doors to actually keep things moving from here. To that degree, there's a lot of activities that are coming up in August and September. And so specifically, we want to make sure that you're aware of what is happening on Martha's Vineyard, as there are several activations in support of our next president, as well as of our respective Black causes. The week of August 11th, we're encouraging you to come up to the Vineyard. If you're going to be in the Vineyard, let us know. Our-Kairos.com. Our O-U-R hyphen Kairos, Kairos.com. So you can learn about ways to mobilize with our efforts here. Collective and Vote to Live will be having continual efforts as well as part of our continued Black Men mobilization. The very next week in Chi-Town, Roland's going to be doing this thing. He has his whole footprint happening at work for that group equally and simultaneously on that Wednesday and Thursday, the 21st and 22nd. We need you. So if you're coming out to Chicago, we need you. There are 7 Black State House speakers that are doing events on Wednesday. There are the 7 Black state chairs that are doing events on that Thursday, but equal on that Thursday night, I'll tee it up to Quentin to highlight. Wednesday, we will be having Kairos, and Thursday, we will have Democracy convening ourselves and several other organizations as part of that. If you want to learn more about what I just mentioned, KairosDemocracyProject.com, Kairos, Kairos, democracyproject.com. All of this is to make sure that our brothers show up and mobilize across the country. So we have a lot of updates here. We wanted to make sure, again, if you want to work on the campaign, we can direct you to the campaign. You want to do water protection in the campaign, we can direct you to that as well. There are a lot of things that are coming, so we want you locked in and mobilized with us. Brother Mark.
Back to you, Ro.
All right, Michael, appreciate that. And everybody who's watching and listening, you understand it's after 7 p.m. After 7 p.m., that's when Mike Blake has his Quiet Storm voice. So he's always wanted to be a Quiet Storm DJ. And so that's why he was, sitting here, Quiet Storm. I'm the DJ, Michael Blake. Also on the road, folks, let's go to wannabe Teddy Pendergrass, Bakari Sellers.
You wish your beard could do like this. I see Quentin trying to make
his. You can't. Come on now.
Quentin
come
beard
on.
don't even touch.
I'm a Zaddy, baby. I like my clean as food.
Yeah, I see y'all boys trying to get your beard to fit in. Let me just say, I'm actually on family vacation this weekend. I'm actually in Amelia Island, Florida, and would not miss this call for the world. And I just want to say thank you to all the brothers who joined the call. And this is going to be a consistent drumbeat of organizing. Thank you, Michael, for the information. Khalil, thank you for the information. Quentin, thank you for your vision. And Roland, you've always been there for all of us putting things like this together. And so thank you. What happened last week or whenever it was, it felt like it was 2 months ago, has taken off. And more Black men are reaching out, trying to join these efforts. Let me just talk briefly, really quick about messaging and just some top line points. One of the things I hope that we all are doing are going out from these calls and being apostles of hope. I hope we're actually going out, leaving these calls and talking to other brothers and sisters who are not able to join these calls. And one of the things I want us to start doing with our messaging as we're going through this process is begin to talk about things in which Kamala Harris can do to change your life. There's a lot of talk about the history of Kamala Harris, the fact that she'd be the first Black female, but you can actually see that. I know Michael Blake was a part of an effort back in 2008. So was Khalil, that led to the first African-American president of the United States. But people can see that history in Kamala Harris. What I ask you to do is tell people those reasons why you support her. Tell people those reasons outside of that, of why you believe she can effectuate change. For me personally, maternal health, what she's doing around reproductive rights, what she's doing around economic mobility for Black folk in particular, what she did for HBCU funding for our schools. Roland knows that in and out. And Roland, one day we need to get Prez on here to talk about those things. And so what I want us to do is begin to have these conversations, not necessarily focused on the history, but I want to focus on the things in which she has done and will do for us. And those are just a few of my personal reasons. The last thing I want us to do is grab some of our young brothers. I was looking at Meek Mill a few weeks ago, looking at Sway Lee just last night. Before we kick these brothers to the side, before we lash out at them for saying something that may be uneducated, let's see if we have the relationships in this room, in particular, to bring a lot of these young brothers in, invite them to the call. I'll make myself available, not just for those two who have some fame or notoriety, but if there's another group of young brothers that I can help, or Roland can help, or Khalil can help, or Q can help, or Michael can help, let us be those vessels. The last thing we need to do is beat up on them or castigate them for views that may just simply be uneducated. If we can tell them one of the reasons why we support them. And so, look, I appreciate all of you all. Thank you. My wife is already hovering over my shoulders, asking where I am on family vacation. And I blame Quentin. And she looked at me and said, well, Stephanie would not let Quentin do this. Why are you out here doing this? So there we are. But I love you all. Thank you.
Well, Bakari, you got to remind her, Quentin was on Monday's call and they were away and Stephanie allowed it to happen. So I'm just saying, but I understand. Go ahead and rock it. Sun's about to go down. Y'all go enjoy the rest of the sun for the day. Y'all know how it is when they have in basketball, they always save the star for the last intro. And so the fifth co-host, we will saying on Monday, he is the co-founder of Collective PAC. He's a bad brother. He's raised millions of dollars. And don't let the glasses fool him. He's the Rico Suave of politics. Put your hands together with Quentin James.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you, brothers. It's great to be here with you all again. A lot has been said about history that was made in the announcement, but now the hard work begins. I noticed that everybody's been asking around, about talking points and about the record. And so while it's only been a few days, the campaign is still technically, transitioning over to Kamala Harris. I do want to provide you all with the kind of Biden-Harris accomplishments over the past 4 years as it relates to African Americans. So in the chat now, you were getting a link. Click that link, and that will give you kind of what we call the Black fact sheet on what Vice President Harris and President Biden have done for Black people over the past 4 years. And again, I know, look, we got to give time for the vice president to outline her vision for America, but we can't deny some of these stats. When you hear things like they capped the cost of insulin at $35, that's a Black policy win, because the majority of people, if you can imagine, disproportionately, at least, who are facing issues around diabetes, we know are people. And so capping that cost is really important for Black seniors. They cut Black child poverty in half by making sure families are getting about $300 per month and up to $1,400 per family. They created 2.6 million Black jobs or jobs for Black workers, help close the racial wealth gap. You all can review this sheet here yourselves. But again, we want to make sure you all are armed with this as you're out there hearing people saying, what have they done for Black people? This fact sheet here will help illustrate and provide you with the tools to talk about that. So that's one. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'll get to them. But people are asking about, the future. Let's give some time. We need to let the vice president communicate that to us. But at the same time, when it comes to what has been done, you have that fact sheet. The next thing I want to just point out real quick is last week, we raised approximately, I'll get the exact figure in about 2 seconds. So we raised over $1.4 million last week. And part of that money that we raised is going to allow us to support Black male organizing effort. And so we're looking to provide grants to organizations doing Black male voter engagement work. I'm going to post here, if organizations want to apply for grants, then with Black men in this organization, please fill out this form over the next few days that we can see your plans, see where you're based, and get you information on how to support your work over the next few weeks. You got 100 days left. And so the link I just shared you for grants is there, as well as the talking points for the campaign. Roland, passing it back over to you to get to some guest speakers, and we'll be talking throughout the evening. Again, we're still raising money, fam. So if you were not able to give last week, we would love for you to give this week as well. And we'll post that in the comments in chat for you all as well. Back to you, Roland.
Roland, while you're coming back.
All right, Quentin, I certainly appreciate it. So yeah, we'll take a little time. So I'm muting myself when you're talking, so you're not getting background noise here. So I appreciate it. Don Lemon is here. He's going to take over when I step away, because I was away at 8 o'clock to go do my duties here. So Don is here right now. And I want to quickly go to Antoine Seawright. He's the CEO of Blueprint Strategies LLC. He also is a Democratic strategist. Antoine, you got the floor.
I thought brothers from South Carolina were always ready. You and Bakari are ready there, Quentin. What's up with that? You gotta get your boy Antoine.
Antoine Seawright. If Antoine is not there, let me know. Lanny Smith, founder of Actively Black, calling in from Paris. It's Lanny Smith. Are you there? All right, y'all let me know when Lanny's there. I do see the Michigan Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, take it from here.
Roland, thank you, brother. Quentin, Bakari, Khalil, everybody, thank you for your leadership. I'm coming to you right now from Detroit, Michigan. I was on that call last week from London, so I'm caught up from the jet lag, but I'm just as hyped now as I was at 2 o'clock in the morning when I jumped on with y'all to tell you how excited I was about this vice president becoming our next president. I'm so hyped for Kamala Harris. I'm hyped for the role that Black men are going to play and making sure that we create the conditions for this to be a historic election, not only in terms of her victory, but in terms of our participation. We have a tremendous and unique opportunity to make sure that our story is centered in how we are telling the story of what's possible in this election, not only for what's possible today for our people, not only for what has happened and how the progress that we've made, but also what's possible for that future. So while Quentin is right that we await eagerly how the vice president will frame her vision for the future and our role in it, I am eager for us to do that work right now, because regardless of how the vice president chooses to frame the work that she plans to lead herself, we can start framing right now the role that we will play in our communities, in our country, and in this election. So I would just challenge and encourage everyone to really step up and stand tall and own your space. This being called Win with Black Men is particularly inspiring to me because it really shows if you can win with Black men, to me, that means that we can't win without us. So we need to make sure that we are really up here, all hands on deck, really outside, going and talking to every single person that we can, letting them know why this is important to us so that they can see why it's important to them. I want you to center the fact that your story matters here. For far too long, I think too many of us have been timid. Too many of us have been unwilling to really bring our full selves to participating in the political process. We don't have time for that anymore. We need everyone to be a part of this movement. Certainly in the state of Michigan, the city of Detroit, we have seen the difference that Vice President Kamala Harris has made through her presence. When she was last here in the city of Detroit, her last 2 trips, I will quote my wife to just say, Kamala was snapping these last couple of times she was here. That's because I think she has really been locked in and been focused on how she not only she's delivered for our communities, but how that work translates to delivering for the community at large here in Michigan and here in America. The things that are good for Black men, what's good for Black men is great for America. And so I want to make sure that we recognize that we own that, and that we walk tall with pride as we step up and step in. We all must do something important in this moment. Now, that's going to look different for every individual. We all bring different things to the table. Some of us are skilled organizers, some of us are skilled speakers, some of us are skilled fundraisers, some of us are skilled conversationalists, some of us are skilled artists. Whatever gifts God gave you, I want you to really think, look within yourself and understand how you can apply them to this movement so that we can all own this victory, all have a piece of this victory, so we can all have a piece of that future. That's how we're going to make this happen. So really, everybody, stand tall for yourself and stand tall for one another. Stand tall for our community, stand tall for our future by getting up, getting out, and getting in. When any of y'all touch down, fly over, drive through, ride the train in the state of Michigan, I need to hear from you so we can make sure that we maximize the impact that you have in this state. Because this state, now we might have some people over here, some other so-called swing states, but the most decisive state in this election is going to be the state of Michigan. So I'm taking all comers who are ready to come in and help out and make sure that we deliver Michigan so we can deliver America. I know I'm going to pass it back to you, Roland, but I do want to shout out one person who did that example, and that's my brother, Mayor Quentin Lucas from Kansas City. We kicked off barbecues for Biden, which I'm so excited to be able to rebrand. To be able, he came and jumped in with our labor brothers and sisters on the west side of Detroit, across the street from my church, really stepped in to get people energized and excited. I want that same energy from as many of you as possible coming through Detroit, coming through Flint, coming through Saginaw, coming through Pontiac, coming through Benton Harbor. We need your presence and your voice, your participation to win Michigan so we can win this election for Vice President Kamala Harris and for all of us. So thank you for having me on here on this call. I got to get back to my wife too. I'm not going to get in trouble with my marriage. I'm like some of y'all. So let's get this done efficiently tonight so we can be effective tomorrow and we can win this movement. All right. God bless, brothers.
All right. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, we so appreciate it. Thanks a lot. And folks, understand we got more than 1,500 folks who are on this Zoom. We're streaming on StreamYard. We got more than 1,000 on YouTube. I was looking at the chat. We got folks who are joining us from England. I've got a text message. Your brother is listening to us in Colombia. And so he asked about the links that Quentin mentioned. Folks, keep in mind, all of the information we posting on social media and is posting on womenwithblackmen.org. Plus, we're going to be sending out, we're not going to be inundating you with emails. We're going to be sending out stuff to the database as well. So if you have not registered, please register at womenwithblackmen.org. You can have your information, and we can send you this critical information so you will be able to share it with your friends and your family. Is Antoine Seawright there?
Catching a plane.
Okay. Antoine's not. Is Antoine? So if Antoine's not there. Is Lanny there? If Lanny is not there, is Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia, is he there?
Let's go to Terrence.
Okay. I do see Mayor Quentin Lucas of Kansas City, Missouri. Mayor Lucas.
Let me get unmuted. How's everybody doing tonight? It is an honor to be with you. I consider myself the other Quentin. I'm the Quentin who doesn't necessarily raise all the money around the country, but gets a chance to tell some good stories about what we're working on. And so, as the Lieutenant Governor just said, we need you in whatever way you can contribute. I was up in Michigan recently. I had the opportunity to talk to good people in Detroit, but I didn't just go to Detroit. I went to Kalamazoo. I went to Grand Rapids. I was in Benton Harbor. Frankly, what we are talking about right now as Black men in this country are the types of things that men everywhere are talking about and looking for. How do we make sure we have good and stable and quality jobs in our communities? How do we make sure that we have good health care in our communities? And how do we make sure that we actually have a candidate who talks about the issues that we care about and our community? What we need to make sure that we are doing in this election is not let President Trump, not let his crew try to divide us in different ways. Now, in the prior campaign, they were trying to say, hey, this is Trump showing up at a Black church once. Now, the most interesting thing about him showing up at that Black church in Detroit was just how many white folks were sitting in that Black church that day. But what I will say is we need to make sure that we're doing the work that says, no, we are here, we are engaged, we are organized, and do not let our community go by the wayside. I happen to believe, and maybe it's because I'm biased, but I've been able to do surrogate work in Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania so far. In each of those, I have seen that Black energy and excitement will make the difference in these races. Vice President Harris has almost tied it up already in any number of swing states. Michigan, Pennsylvania, you're seeing new polls out today. We need to make sure that she has that extra edge that goes over and above it. So a few things we need to do in the next 100 days. First of all, I was just with my family. You need to tell them that this really matters. This isn't a sit on the sideline election. If you are not in a swing state, and many of us are not, you can make calls, you can donate, you can contribute, you can organize, you can visit swing states. That's step one. Step two, if you are in a swing state, we need you on the ground. We need to hear from you. We need to hear from what your messaging is. So make sure you stay linked with this group right here. And then I think the most important thing is you remind people this isn't just any other election. I have a whole bunch of people in my family who don't vote, regularly try not to vote. When I ran for office, they were still like, dang, man, was the election Tuesday or Wednesday? And I'm like, why has there been an election on Wednesday? But nonetheless, right, you need to make sure that we are getting them out to say, all right, this is a time that we can make a key and strategic difference. And let me just tell you a few of those strategic differences. And I know that in the chat, Quentin is sharing a lot of the information for you. I've been a mayor since 2019. I was a mayor under President Trump. I saw the absolute foolishness that existed when we were dealing with COVID-19 and American healthcare. I saw the foolishness that existed when we tried to address issues like gun violence. In my city, we had a very prominent shooting right after the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl. The Republican answer was just to say, let's not talk about guns, let's not do anything. President Biden and Vice President Harris were able to pass the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, making sure we have resources to make our communities safer. They're invested in our healthcare, in our cities, in our schools, in our communities. And this is a time we can make a very clear difference. So I'm proud to stand with other Black men in America throughout our country, because I think we will make a difference. We will get 4 more years to truly change this country for the better. And more than anything, we get 4 more years to build more outstanding leaders in each town, village, city that we find Black people in, and we'll be able to succeed even further. So thank y'all for letting me be here. It is good to see so many of y'all. I ain't seen my brother Don Lemon in a minute, so it's good to see you again, sir. And everybody involved. And I'll turn it back over to our leadership. Khalil, you're doing a wonderful job.
Mayor Quentin Lucas of Kansas City, Missouri. I sure appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, since President Joe Biden 1 week ago decided he wasn't going to seek re-election and he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, you've seen a dramatic shift in polls, national polls, battleground polls as well. You've seen a shift in approval ratings, favorability ratings. And so joining us right now is someone who is quite familiar with polls, Terrence Woodbury. Terrence Woodbury, of course, has his own polling firm, and he's always pouring over these numbers. He's been spending time with focus groups. So, Terrence, what you got for us?
Thank you so much, Roland. Thank all of you gentlemen for being here. I started this company to make sure that we are lifting up the voices that are underrepresented and misrepresented in research. And I can assure you that no one is more misrepresented in polling right now than Black men. And so we've been keeping our finger on the pulse. We work with organizations like NAACP, Black Lives Matter, Collective PAC, Black Men Vote, Higher Heights, in order to keep our finger on the pulse. We're in focus groups almost every night, y'all. And so I don't come to tell you my opinion. I come to tell you the opinion of the Black folks that we talk to every day. Look, with the support of Brother Quentin, we do have a new poll from of the vice president post her becoming the nominee. Quentin also just got back from vacation, so we got to talk about how we're gonna get that data out into the public. But for now, I want to show y'all a couple of slides. I just want to arm y'all with data. We all got work to do, right? But I want to make sure.
The first thing you're gonna do is come on the Black Star Network so we know what you're gonna do first. But go right ahead.
That's what we can premiere that poll over there, Quentin, when you're ready. All right, y'all. Let me just walk you through a couple of points real quick. I got 5 minutes. Number one, the vice president is not going to inherit Joe Biden's coalition. She's going to have to build her own. Joe Biden became president with a lot of blocks of voters that not all Democrats do well with. Groups like white seniors. All Democrats do well with Black seniors. I always say I love Black seniors because we know they're going to vote and we know who they're going to vote for. Well, Joe Biden did exceptionally well amongst white seniors, who are the largest voting bloc in America. Something tells me that Kamala Harris is not going to do better than Scranton Joe with white seniors. And so she's going to have to consolidate her base of Black voters, of young voters, and of POC women and of women of color.
Terrence.
Yep.
Hey, Terrence, but I want you to explain that point there. And first of all, Democrats have not done well with white voters since the LBJ in 1964. Biden did the best among white voters, correct me, of any Democrat for really in 30 plus years. Was it 42% of white voters who received?
That's exactly right. 42, 50,
Hillary
60, I think. Yep.
Hillary Clinton was around 38. So the reality is
39.
that it's critically important for Vice President Kamala Harris to get around 40% of white voters, correct, and to have a dramatic increase of Black, Latino, and young voters, right?
That's exactly right. So Barack Obama's coalition included a lot more voters of color, not just a larger share of them, but there were more of them voting because they were mobilized by Barack Obama. When Joe Biden got elected, he did much better than Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton with groups like white seniors, like white women, like white college voters. Some of those groups Kamala Harris is going to do well with. I expect her to do well with white women. But some of those groups she's not going to do as well with, like white seniors. She's not going to do as well as Scranton Joe does with white seniors, and they're the largest voting bloc in America. President Biden also got 79% of Black men's votes, y'all. Kamala Harris ain't going to win with 79% of Black men's votes. She's going to have to get closer to 90%. She's going to get close to that Obama level number. The reason he was able to win with 79 is because of how well he was doing with the groups that we know she's not going to be able to perform as well with, like white seniors. All right, number two, pervasive misinformation and disinformation have done damage to her credibility amongst the exact groups that she needs to win: Black people, young people, and women of color. these stereotypes that she's not Black enough, that she's not woman enough because she don't have kids. I hear all of this shit in focus groups. And the thing that we hear the most is that she locked up a bunch of Black folks. So what do we have to do? We have to redefine her before we allow them to define her. That starts with layering in her bio. It doesn't start with her resume, right? It doesn't start with how many offices she's won and how many glass ceilings she shattered. That's important. But for Black men, we got to know who she is. Who's your mama? You know, where you from? What do you believe in? Do you go to church? Do you pray? We need the basics. And then we can get to correcting the record. And then we can be, to Quentin's point, and then we can start crystallizing her vision for the future. And then most important, we have to define the existential threat of this election. Another correction I want to make, folks, the threat here is not racism. Black men know that Donald Trump is racist. They know that politics is racist, that it's kind of built in. And so we can't expect that, like, if we can just raise that, the thing he said about the Central Park Five, or that thing he said about shithole countries, they heard all of it. So the racism is not disqualifying. The violence, the clear and present danger that he's putting our community in, that is what is disqualifying.
And Terrence,
to define the Project 2025.
Terrence, I want you to explain this here to everybody who's watching. Okay, there are polls out there, but you are doing focus group, which means questions are being asked, and you are hearing direct, raw answers from brothers and sisters.
That's right.
And so this ain't anecdotal stuff. That's so explain the focus group. I need people to understand what you're hearing and why you're telling us this, because you're hearing this directly from the mouths of individuals who are considering voting for Trump, who might be Democrats or independents, who may be on the couch. Just explain that for the people who don't quite understand.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Roland. And so we are a public opinion firm. We're not a polling firm, right? And so we keep our finger on the public opinion of our communities. That includes polling, but that also includes sitting in focus groups almost every single night. We conduct over 20 focus groups a month. That's almost every night, folks. I'm in Philadelphia last week. I'm going to Detroit next week. I'm in a battleground state at least once a week because we are listening to the voters that are going to determine the outcome of this election. And one of the things that we're hearing the most is number 3. In fact, I was in focus groups on Tuesday, 48 hours after she was nominated, and I heard number 3 more than I'm hearing anything else. And that is, Black folks are not underestimating the America's proclivity for racism, right? And what does that mean? In these focus groups, when I asked them about, how do you feel about Kamala Harris being nominated? Do you think she can win? The main concern that people have is not that they don't like her. It's that white folks might not vote for her. It's that what happens if white people don't vote for her and then he gets elected, right? For Black people, the number one priority in this election is beating Donald Trump. And so what happens if America's racism and sexism prevents this woman from getting elected? They are terrified by that. And if you remember, it was the same thing they felt about Barack Obama in 2008, y'all. Barack Obama wasn't winning South Carolina. Hillary Clinton was winning South Carolina until Barack Obama won Iowa in 2008, because Black folks needed to know that white people would vote for him.
That's right.
We needed to know that before we bet on him. We needed to know, because we're not just voting for ourselves. We're practical voters. We're voting to defend our communities. And right now, we're defending it against that existential threat of violence. And can she beat him? So what do we need to do to convince Black folks that she could win this thing? We have to demonstrate momentum, remind them of our collective power, this grassroots energy. This is how we convince them. The grassroots, the grass tops energy is going to convince the grassroots. The second thing, though, is that we got to remind them that we've overcome sexism and racism before. We did it for Barack Obama. It's our collective power. Together, we can do this. And finally, and this is going to be a big part of this, y'all, is mega star power. When she's standing on stage with Barack Obama and Meryl Streep and Will Smith, and on Tuesday, she's going to be in Atlanta performing with Meg Thee Stallion. That's how she does it, y'all. That's how that people start to see the collective power around her. And that's how they believe that we can beat this racism and beat this sexism. And finally, look, Black men, a lot of the very progressive social issues aren't very mobilizing to us, like marriage equality and immigration, and some of those things aren't the issues that we're it's not that we're against all of those things. It's that those aren't the reasons we're about to get up and go vote, right? With the exception of abortion. Abortion is the one social issue that, listen, y'all, Black men are supporting abortion in some places at higher rates than women. That's not just based on their opinion, that's based on their votes. In Ohio, issue 1 in 2023, issue 1 was an abortion amendment in 2023 in Ohio. Black men supported issue 1 more than any group in the state of Ohio, including Black women. 87% of Black men voted yes on issue 1. And so abortion is very mobilizing for Black men. But the other thing we got to do with these progressive issues, I'm not telling Democrats and progressives to abandon progressive issues. I'm saying we got to package these progressive issues and message them through Black values. Values like spirituality, patriotism, masculinity. Listen, I had a brother tell me in a focus group just last week in Philadelphia that when he sees an American flag hanging on somebody's house, that means they're white and they're racist. We can't seed racism. We can't seed patriotism, y'all. We can't seed Jesus. We can't seed these things to the right. And the most important thing I've been trying to tell Democrats all the time is like, not all masculinity is toxic. We can't seed masculinity to the right, or you're going to seed my father. If you seed God, and you seed patriotism, and you seed masculinity, there's no place for him in this party. So what does that mean? It means we message these progressive values like abortion through a religious value. God grants us all freedom of choice. Why should government grant women any less than that? That is a religious value for a progressive issue. As the head of my household, I must protect my family from intrusive governments that tell them who they can and cannot be. That is a masculine value for a progressive issue. In fact, that last bullet point is exactly what we see Dwayne Wade doing every single day for his daughter. As the head of his household, he stands up for his trans daughter because that's his responsibility as a father, right? These are the ways that we use our values to message these progressive issues. All right, y'all, let me give you a couple of slides real quick. First things first, this is a poll that was taken the day after she became the nominee. I told you she's not going to inherit Joe Biden's coalition. Well, we see that happening already. But we also see her putting together her own. She's doing a lot, 7 points worse with men, 7 points worse than Joe Biden was doing with men. But the reason she's closing that gap, that there was a 6-point gap between Biden and Trump, there's a 2-point gap between Harris and Trump, 2 points. She's already closed about 4 points in 24 hours. The reason she's doing that is because she's putting together the Kamala Harris coalition. Look at that list at the bottom there. She's doing 6 points better with Democrats, 4 points better with Latino voters, 12 points better with young voters, and 15 points better with Black voters in 24 hours. Before she's even had a chance to make to make a case for herself, her coalition is already assembling one.
About 30 more seconds, Terrence.
Last thing I want to give y'all, this is the last one because you're going to hear a lot about her locking up Black folks, all the top cop shit. You're going to hear that, right? Because that's the misinformation that they found to be most effective. Well, we did this poll back in 2020 with Collective PAC again. And we started giving them facts about her. And this is one of them. Kamala Harris was the first attorney general in the country to require statewide policing agencies to wear body cameras and have implicit bias training. Well, when we introduced this information, 53% of Black voters became more favorable of her. 53%. That's not a persuasive statement. It's just a fact. And what that tells me, guys, as I wrap up here, we have to introduce the facts about her. We got to tell them, give them the truth, because when we do, we increase her approval amongst people of color from 51% to 72%. We can do this, y'all. It takes money. Please donate. But it's also going to take each of you amplifying this voice on your respective platforms. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Roland, can I ask a question?
Terrence. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Terrence, it's Don Lemon. Thank you. And thank you for coming on the other day. Everything that I've been hearing, you said exactly what I've been hearing from people. But the number one question I want to know is, when people told you how and they gave misinformation in these focus groups, were you able to convince them otherwise? Were they convincible?
Yes.
Could they change their minds? And
Absolutely.
did they change their minds?
Absolutely.
Also,
absolutely. They need to hear. So there's a couple things. they need to hear the facts about her, right? But they need these facts to go back. They need to hear what she was doing in 2005 as a process. It's not just what she's been doing in the last 3 years as VP. Because when you just tell them, and she's done a lot as VP, but when you just tell them what she's done for the last 3 years, it feels like pandering. Oh, she's just doing that because she wanted to be president. But when you tell them that in 2005, she started a Back on Track program that guaranteed a job and housing for every single person that was released from prison, and that has now become a model for 100 cities across the country. Well, that was 20 years ago. She wasn't running for president 20 years ago. That she was doing progressive work, and that's the kind of stuff they need to hear. And it is convincing, Roland. I'm sorry, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. Terrence Woodbury, hit strategist. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, Terrence also said something in 2022. When you tell Black people that our vote will make the difference, there's a higher likelihood they're going to vote. We got to explain to people that if we vote 68, 70, 75% of our numbers, we can clean up the election. Andrew Gillum lost by 30,000 votes when he ran for governor of Florida. Sheriff Beasley lost by 401 votes there was Chief Supreme Court Justice. And a conversation yesterday, an African American won by 14 votes in the local election. And so we got to explain to people that our vote does matter. It made a difference. Obama won North Carolina by 14,100 votes. And understand, North Carolina Republicans immediately changed the voting law because of what happened in North Carolina. So we got to explain to people our vote matters. Our next guest understands that. The former mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter. Mayor Nutter, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Roland. Thanks, and Quentin. Thanks for inviting me. Terrence, great information. Love to catch up with you online or however we're going to get our information. These facts are important. I was doing some work, and the TV was on in the background between the Olympics, and I heard this commercial. It was obviously an anti. Kamala Harris commercial, but the end of it, the tagline was something like, "She's the most dangerous woman in America."
Wait, Mayor Nutter, can you tell them how often you're hearing that commercial in Philadelphia? Because folks that aren't in the battleground don't know how much they're doing to define her in these places already.
Sure. I would say I heard it 3 or 4 times in the course of the day. I mean, the first time I heard it, I burst out laughing. It's like, are you serious? She's the most dangerous person in the country. Right. So, I mean, our airwaves are flooded. Now, the flip side of that is, I mean, there were, pro Kamala Harris ads on the same station at the same time. But, if they're running 5 and we're running 5 or 4 or 6 or whatever, for most folks at some point, it just kind of washes everything out. I mean, it's having like, what do I believe? Right. And so somebody dropped in the chat a fact sheet. I think we've got to be strong out here. I talked to Quentin about this. I mean, we have to take seriously the smearing of her name and reputation. For me, the first rule of politics is define yourself before someone does it for you, because you won't like it. Now, it's weird in a way to say that we need to define or redefine Kamala Harris, right? District Attorney, Attorney General, U.S. Senator, Vice President, now running for president. She's been on the field more than a minute, but this is a different situation. There's no office obviously like it, and so what I would ask you, I'm not trying to ask you right now, but I think what's important for us is, what are these different messages? I saw the screen and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4. How do we package that in a way that is digestible, that is in 30, 45 seconds, whether it's on TV or any of the various platforms? People are getting their information in bites. They don't know where to get it, to get the truth in many instances, and it's going to be a dogfight here in Pennsylvania. I heard you say earlier you were in Philly, and some of the things you said certainly sound like something that somebody in Philly would say. We should take nothing for granted. I love the 81 million or whatever the number was in 24 hours, closing the gap by 4. This is going to be a rocket ship of 100 days of a campaign. And to Roland's point, to Don's point, we can actually win. When we get our stuff together, when we unite, when we clear through. Look, it took maybe longer than anybody would like. With many of us Democrats, painful. We have all this process, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was over. Right? Everybody, as I think somebody's running an ad or started at the beginning, or maybe it was the theme song. Everybody's starting to get information. That's what we need to do. Cut the nonsense, cut the conversation, put your head down, get back to work. We have a campaign to win. And when we are united, we win. And we just need to reinforce that message all across. It's not our first campaign. It's not the first time we tried to win. It's not the first time we overcame, some odds or, just jumped up and said, hey, this is what we're doing. And we win. Right. So, sure, there's going to be some doubts. And, can she do this? Can she? If you vote, if everybody just does their part, and I understand and worried, like what are white people doing? Who knows what white people are going to do? We need to take care of our business and do what Black people can do, which is to take 5-10 minutes in some places, walk out of your house or vote early or whatever happens in your state. Just do your part. That's what we need people to do, and get the right information, share it with a friend, share it with a neighbor, take an opportunity to talk to somebody you haven't talked to in a long period of time. This is serious stuff. It's very serious stuff. Nobody's going to read a long, drawn-out paper. Sorry. These are the issues, 3 or 4 things. You will keep track. This is what it's about. This is what I'm communicating. Let's keep it moving. And get out and early vote, day vote, whatever vote you're doing, do that vote.
All right, Mayor Nutter, we so appreciate it, sir. Thank you so very much. Let's go to my man.
Glad y'all doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's go to my man, communications expert, journalist, Jeff Johnson. Jeff.
Hey, you all. Good to be with you. Quentin, Khalil, Roland, all of you that are kind of on the front lines of ensuring that this happens. Thank you. But I really want to say thank you so much to Terrence. What many of us don't know is Black men are the least polled group of people in America. People know less about what we think, what we want, the complexity of our demographics than anybody. And I bring to this work, as many of you know, 7 presidential cycles, from being the National Youth Director in 2000 to covering the election for BET in 2008 to supporting Black Men Vote, where we specifically had a super PAC focused on turning Black men out, to running to being with comms and priorities. And one thing I've learned, the party only knows so much. And as Black men not being polled, every time I hear a briefing about what Black male voters want, I'm like, what Black men did they talk to? Which is why I think Terrence's work is so critically important. What I want to make sure, though, is that we're clear about the difference between, and let's be clear, right? I mean, we are all things. There are regional and generational, economic and educational differences. We're progressive, conservative, blackative, confusative, and everything, right, left, and in between. We identify with a variety of Black and diasporic experiences that drive what we believe and the values that are providing the grounding behind them. But what I do want to make sure of is that we're clear about the difference between Black men who are not with us. And by that, I mean Black men who are operating with a mission that seeks and is intentional about harming Black people. There are men right now who are not Dems, don't trust political parties. They're misinformed by attacks on us that seek to divide us. But they're committed to independent approaches to gaining political power. In a moment that we need as many people on the chessboard as possible, can we please, to Bakari's earlier point, engage brothers as if they are our brothers and not our enemies? I understand you're passionate. I understand that you think the only time we should be telling somebody to fall in line is if they already said they're a Democrat. If you haven't said you're a Democrat, what are you falling in line to? There are brothers out here that are actually open to hearing what Kamala has to say, but not when they're being told what they have to do. With nobody saying, what do you care about? What are your interests? What are you passionate about? Why do you vote? As a father, what are the things that you show up for your kids? As a husband, how are you leading your family? As a business owner, what are the things you want? And I think that somewhere somebody told us that we just have to acquiesce to a party agenda that really hasn't served a lot of Black men. And so this isn't just about Black men being duped by Russians or Chinese that are spitting messages at us to confuse us. This is Black men that say, I don't believe the hype. And this ain't really got nothing to do with Kamala. I don't trust anybody connected to the formal party. And there's a real opportunity for us in that regard, because it's not them saying they don't care about our community. Can we please ask them questions in an attempt to understand their concerns, their issues, who they don't want to mess with and why? So even after our engagement, even if we disagree, we can increase understanding with our brothers who do operate in integrity but disagree. I'm not with men who don't know how to support or refuse to support women's leadership. But I am with brothers who are in the trenches on a daily basis as fathers and business owners, as activists and servants, as preachers and community members who support their community, who just want answers to some questions before they decide what they do, and don't want to feel forced. And what I would say is, I was with a brother the other day who just said, I don't mess with anybody that is connected to a party. And I'm like, well, you don't really have a choice in this regard. The other thing I want us to be careful about is cultural wins are not enough for everybody. There are people that felt like they rode a cultural history bandwagon with President Obama and didn't get enough in return for focusing on cultural historical moments versus practical political returns, right? And I can't blame them for being angry about that. So I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm not excited about Kamala Harris. I believe in Kamala Harris. And that's a fundamental difference for me. I don't have to be excited about somebody's leadership to believe in somebody's leadership. I would rather believe than be excited, because I know there's some people I'm excited about that don't have capacity. And I fundamentally believe that she does. I'm committed to supporting her leadership. I'm committed to fighting. I think Terrence talked about not talking about her resume, but I think there are places that we who are a part of this do need to defend her resume. One, to be like, this DEI shit is ridiculous. She's not a DEI hire. And two, to talk about, do you know what it takes politically and otherwise to win a DA race, to win an AG race, to win a Senate race as a Black woman? That doesn't happen because you show up and you look good and you are AKA and went to Howard. It happens because you understand the politics of your district, of your state, and you work them and you work relationships and you move. And we've got to talk about both. As I close, I think we got to remember too, y'all, that in 2020, she wasn't allowed to tell her story. It literally was like, stand there, be with Joe Biden, don't make too much noise, and get the Black women to turn out. She did not get to tell her story. In fact, Don can tell you, and folks like myself and Roland can tell you who are in the media, that many of us tried to have opportunities to do sit downs with her to talk about her story, about the tension between being a Black woman and a prosecutor, about, even though she didn't marry a Black man, what did Black men mean to her in her life and her trajectory? Those things didn't happen. I'm excited about the possibility of those happening so that brothers have the opportunity, I think, to Terrence's point, to understand what her story is, what she believes, what she wants to fight for when nobody else is around, who she has fought for. Those kind of things make a difference. So let's help be a bridge to real conversation that I think a lot of people are trying to shut down. It is not time to tell Black men that them having questions about a candidate is the wrong thing to do. Don't attack her. Don't use a gender weaponization to come against her, because we're not going to stand for that. But you saying you don't know if you're with her or not is justifiable if nobody's tried to earn your vote yet. And I want us to be bridges to brothers that might be there for her. I think, Don, your question to Terrence was right on. What are the things that are changing their mind? Talking to them like they're adults, talking to them like they care, talking to them that they're not Black women and don't think the same way and have individual views, but have a level of track record where they've been committed to our community. I talked to a brother in Atlanta on Friday, And after he told me about his concerns about trust.
Got 30 seconds, Jeff.
Yep, trust of the party. I told him, listen, 3 things are going to happen. Somebody going to get elected, and they are going to ensure that money gets spent, laws get passed, and judges get appointed. You ain't got to be excited. You don't have to love them, trust them, like them, want to go to dinner with them. You just got to pick somebody who you think is going to kill your family less and support your family most. The election is, and I'm closing, Roland, is one weapon in our arsenal. So it doesn't mean we put all our eggs in this basket, but we damn sure can't leave this one to chance. So you all, let's be imaginative in how we engage brothers, how we talk to them, how we use resources and engage. And it's not just the stars, y'all. It is massive local voices. Use the voices of brothers in these community to engage brothers in these community, because they've got trust many of us don't have there. And that's how we're going to change them. Thank you all. Appreciate it, Roland.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Coming up next, and I want to remind all the speakers, it's super tight. We have several blocks up here. Chris Evans, he's the co-president of Fusion Entertainment. I'm going to pull Chris up right now. And then I have to step away to the Jalen Rose event. You have Chris there? Is Chris there?
I'm here.
Let me see, Chris. Chris is there. And so after Chris speaks, Don Lemon will take it over from here. Glad to see everyone on the call. More than 2,000 folks in this Zoom. Also stream almost 2,000 on YouTube, on Facebook, and Twitch as well. And so keep the conversation going. Chris, take it away. Gentlemen, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you so much, Roland. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Thrilled to join you. I am an early supporter of the vice president from back when she ran the first time. And I've gotten to know her and Doug a little bit since then. And I've had a lot of interactions on social media, getting to understand what people like about her, what they don't. What Terrence said before really resonated with me in terms of knowing what she was doing before she was running for president. So when I first learned about who Kamala Harris was, that she was potentially someone who could be running, I said, let me go back. Let me go way back to what she was doing when she was the prosecutor in Alameda County, when she was the DA, when she was all of these things that she was doing when people weren't paying attention, to see who she really was and what her values were. So I literally went back, set my Google, news date range to years and years ago, and just went and started reading articles, watching her interviews and all of that stuff. And what you will find is that she was ahead of the curve on every issue that people are talking about now when it comes to progressive law enforcement, progressive criminal justice. I think somebody mentioned the Back on Track program. I mean, at the time, people were calling the program Back on Crack. They were saying, why are you're a prosecutor, you're supposed to be putting people in prison, why are you letting them out? So this whole narrative that people are running with now, that she had these sort of draconian policies where she was just indiscriminately locking Black people up, is not supported by the facts, but people don't know that. So I'm on Twitter every day, trying to correct misinformation that people have about her. I cannot tell you how many things I've been posting just since she announced that she's running, that people are like, oh, wow, I didn't know this about her. I didn't know she did this program or that. I didn't know that she was, pissing off the San Francisco PD because they were setting up sting operations for these young girls who were prostitutes, and Kamala refused to prosecute them. And they were pissed at her that they wasted all this time and resources. And she tried to help these girls get help to get out of the situations they were in. I didn't know about X, Y, and Z. And I'm thinking, all of this information was out there when she ran the first time, but nobody was paying attention, and the media wasn't giving her a chance to really tell her story. We're seeing, I'm sure a lot of you have seen these things that are going around now with some of our rappers and our entertainers that are posting some not very accurate information about her right now on social media. There's things that are going around I've seen on TikTok and Instagram about Nina Simone and her granddaughter, and the stuff about her truancy and the marijuana thing, and all of that stuff. It's literally all the same playbook that they used when she ran for president the first time. And I've got the receipts ready to correct people when they're wrong. So people just need to be educated about the information. And so I think we as Black men specifically, we can go out there and have these conversations off social media, obviously everybody here on this Zoom is someone who's involved and who's going to vote and all of that stuff. But we need to get to those people who are not as motivated as we are and who are not having these conversations. So again, I have spaces on Twitter all the time about this sort of thing. I'm having one tomorrow about Kamala's story and correcting some misinformation. But I think we all continue to keep doing this work, continue to keep having these conversations. And I've also put together a bunch of documents about her accomplishments as VP, correcting different talking points about her record. So I've got all of that out there for people who may want to send it to their family members or to whomever they're talking to. But again, I'm so happy to be here with all of you guys. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Chris, thank you. I appreciate it. And Chris is out there on digital and on social fighting the good fight. And listen, don't underestimate the power of digital and social, especially now. I've been opening up since Kamala Harris, since the president stepped away. I can't open my social media without seeing something about Kamala Harris, right? And so I think the campaign understands the importance of digital and especially the importance of social media, because a lot of people are getting it from there. But when you get it from social media, there are no editorial controls. So we need to make sure that what is being put out there on social media, that it is right, that it's correct. I have so much to talk to you guys about, but I want to hear from you. And feel free, I think if you have questions to our panelists, and I'm going to try to moderate to keep it short, but if you have questions to our panelists, feel free to jump in. Ask me to jump in and ask a question, because I think it's important to, in real time, to be able to respond to some of these things. Because Terrence, you're right on. I think we need to hear more from you about what people need to hear in order to correct the misinformation. I want to go now to my homeboy who's here from Louisiana, Mr. Gary Chambers. Gary, you have a few words from us, and thank you for joining.
Good to see you, Don, and it's good to be with all of you. It is critical for us as Black men that we understand our role and responsibility in these conversations. I really appreciated what Jeff said a few minutes ago, because a lot of the conversation that I've had with Black men has been around questions that just want clarity. They want to understand what's at stake. They understand what's at stake, but they want to know, am I giving my vote to somebody who's different than the previous people? I think that, one, we do understand clearly she's different than the previous people. She's somebody who worked her way up in a very aggressive way through positions that have meaningful impact on Black people. But what the brother Terrence said about her being the person who brought body cameras in for statewide agencies in California, one, California being the largest state in the country population-wise, that means there's a lot of people that have encountered the police that, because of this woman, had to have transparent encounters with the police. As somebody who helped push for body cameras in Baton Rouge, who is still fighting against police departments that are brutalizing and strip searching Black people here in Louisiana, it is the Biden-Harris Justice Department that is investigating those police departments. That's something that did not happen under Donald Trump. When we talk about this immunity that Donald Trump wants to give to police officers, if we have a person who is on the opposite of those positions that directly impact us as Black people, then this is a strategic business decision for the livelihood of us, our children, and the people that we love. It is not that we should also stop looking at politicians as saviors. Okay, there is no savior coming to save us. Every time Black folks have been saved in a situation, it has been Black people who have fought for the liberties that we have got. And for me, somebody who has worked tirelessly, I am frustrated with some of the conversations that I've seen us have. Not the questions that seek knowledge, but the people who just cast the woman away as if it's impossible for her to do it. It's impossible if we don't do our part. And to compare a Black woman to these white men in any capacity is disingenuous to me, because we know that the hurdles that we have to jump to get to the places that we get, all these attacks on that they are saying a DEI, is really just them wanting to call her the N-word without saying it. And for those of us in these positions, we have to be loud and vocal about that. I'm not as excited or energized behind Vice President Harris as I am about what I see as the visibility and the opportunity to build momentum. $80 million in 24 hours cannot be denied. I am somebody who has ran in political races, and if I had a little bit more money, I'd be in Congress today, because it takes resources to win elections. And if you want to tell me that a Black woman being able to raise $80 million when neither Joe Biden or Donald Trump did that in a 24-hour time span, money talks and BS walks. This is proof that she has the ability to get a broad gain of support, and that support can turn into votes if we get out there and cast the message that brings us as Black people to the table. I also want to leave with this, that we as Black men, if 80% of us did our job, we got to let the minority stop being the loudest voice for the majority of Black people.
Yeah. Gary, thank you. And I do think that there are persuadable people out there. Yes. I think that, we can win, but I think it's going to be tough in the swing states, and it's going to be tough with white men. I got to be honest, because I'm out there with every demographic, and that's going to be problematic. There's a white man call tomorrow night. I don't know if you guys know about that, and they've been calling and asking me for strategy. So hopefully they can sway some of their brothers. Hill Harper is here. Hill's running for Senate in Michigan. Hill, how you doing, brother? Is Hill there? No Hill. Hill, if you're there, unmute. All right, Hill, if you get here, then we'll get you. Terrence Green, are you there?
Yes.
Terrence, go ahead. You skipped because we don't have Hill. Good to see you, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great. Good to see everyone this evening, and thanks to the team for inviting us to the call tonight. I'm a paid media strategist, and I've done advertising with national campaigns, including the Biden-Harris campaign. So this is a really fantastic thing for me to share with you a little bit of what we know sort of on the public side of things. As Mayor Nutter referenced earlier, the other side is already up. They're hitting her hard, and they're saying some things that are just completely out of line. Putting her record, and twisting it as a DA. They're saying that she let people out of jail who ended up murdering others, that she's done some really despicable things. As we talk about correcting the record, it's going to be important that we get the story out about what she really did, about how her progressive values really shape who she is and her policies. And not enough people know about that. They know about her as vice president maybe before they know about anything else. So that's an important thing that we have to make sure we get out to the public. Right now, the other side, the bad guys, have about $35 million up on television through Labor Day. Our allies have come in with about $50 million that gets us a little bit further than Labor Day, but still, has us in a position. So we're going to need to make sure that we get up as a campaign as soon as we can to make sure we can counter all these messages and come in strong and tell people who she really is. You define yourself first. And we have to make sure we do that. I'm open for any questions that people have specifically to this. But what I will say is that the campaign has had already a fantastic start in terms of getting message out to folks on digital media. And we're going to see a lot more happening when it comes to the paid side. So stay tuned.
Don, you're muted real quick.
Terrence, thank you very much, guys, for reminding me. Terrence, is it penetrating? Because as Mayor Nutter said, you get 5 ads one way, you get 5 ads the other, one hitting her, one supporting her, the other supporting her. Is all of that penetrating?
So far, I mean, it's interesting. We're a week into this. I know it seems like it's been about a month already, but it's been barely 7 days. So far, I think it's probably about as okay as it could be when we talk about point levels and penetration. But soon enough, the constellation of MAGA, right? It's not just Trump. It's all these other folks, dark money, that are coming in to the battleground where we can see what's on television mostly as far as the spending. What's happening sort of below the surface is all the digital spending. They're doing a lot of targeted ads, a lot of them targeted at Black voters, to be honest. When President Biden was still on the ticket, there was a massive effort on radio and digital to deliver mis and disinformation to our voters. and not to get our votes, but to suppress our votes. And that's the one thing we have to look at right here too. They're not necessarily going to bring us over with a persuasive argument. They just want to either keep us away from voting or keep us away from voting for her. So that's where the impetus is on us to spread good information and to get that available as soon as we can to folks that identify as Democrat, but also to the Senator brothers who are still on the fence, but could be convinced and persuaded to participate if they're given some good information about who she is and why their vote will matter. So that charge is up to us, and we're ready to take it up.
Yeah. Is Terrence Woodbury still there? Terrence, I have a question that goes with something that Terrence Green said. If you're there, click off. If not, no worries. I'll just move on to the next speaker and I'll ask you personally.
John, we also have 275 questions going right now that we're trying to come back and forth to. So,
okay. If you guys can send it, because I don't see them. If you guys can send it, that would be great. I don't see the questions. And perhaps I'm in the wrong chat, but let me know how what I can do to get those questions in, because I would love to get some folks' questions.
Hill is back now too.
All right. So in the meantime, as we do that, Hill Harper, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining the call.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. I'm running back from a campaign stop myself here in Michigan, and we're working hard. It was great to hear what Jeff had to say. So many. I met Kamala Harris in 2007 when Barack asked us both to go to Iowa to stump for him leading into the Iowa caucus. He felt that there was no real pathway to victory for him if he couldn't win Iowa. And so she and I crisscrossed the state in late 2007 leading into Iowa caucus and, developed a friendship. She asked me to contribute to her book. I did that. And then, I hosted her for her first Southern California fundraiser when she ran for Attorney General. And so, she's been doing this work a very long time. She has the credentials, but Jeff is absolutely right. When we talk about brothers, and I'm finding this firsthand on my campaign trail, brothers have felt lied to and feel very disaffected. It's almost like voting is painful for them because they feel like they're giving something away and they've never gotten anything back in return for the investment of their vote. And so I'm finding on the campaign trail that, I have brothers come on, man, I read your book. There was a brother just yesterday who was like, man, I was on inside and I read your book, Letters to Incarcerated Brother. Love you, man, but I can't vote. I'm like, dude, you just said you read my book, And he's like, man, I just can't do it. He's like, it's just horrible to vote. Because he feels no matter who it is, he's giving away a piece of himself for literally nothing in return for that investment of his vote. And I understand it. There's a level of frustration. And to be quite honest, the Democratic Party is culpable in this, right? Showed up time and time again saying, hey, give us your vote, save the country. We need you. And what comes back quite often is quite frankly, very little in return. And so we have to do a much better job of asking brothers what they need, what they want, and show what we will do to provide for those things. But fundamentally, most of us want the exact same thing, right? We want a safe place for our kids to go to school, live in safe neighborhoods. We want to get access to capital so we can actually build businesses or create something that is helpful for as far as a living wage, as far as jobs, as far as healthcare, all the different things that everybody wants, right? And so how do we provide that and what do we do? Having campaigned all over Michigan this past year, is getting folks to vote is not easy, and I understand why, and I understand the frustration.
How are you doing on your campaign, Hill? Is there anything we can do to support you as we are all coming together tonight?
We got election day is August 6th. We got 9 days. We got in-person early voting for the next 8 days. So I literally been, telling people, go vote, go vote. just spread the word. This is an opportunity. It's a U.S. Senate seat, and we've been, there's only been 12 Black U.S. senators in the history of this country. And if we had 12 right now, we'd still be underrepresented by population. And this is an opportunity. It's an open U.S. Senate seat here in Michigan. It's an opportunity to get real representation. And literally, 100 people in this country. When I was at Harvard Law School, my constitutional law professor would talk about all the time how the U.S. Senate was the most powerful body in all of politics, the most deliberative body in all of politics. And then when you break it down, 100 people in this country control the distribution of $7.2 trillion annually. And, Shirley Chisholm said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Why? Because you have to have a seat at the table. If we're going to get resources back to our community, we have to bring them back. And so certainly the best way to help me is go to hillharper.com and if you give a few shekels, a few dollars, it helps us do a better job on Black radio. What I've noticed is that so many people come up to me, man, I'm gonna vote for you in November. It's gonna be you and Kamala at the top of the ticket. And I'm like, dude, if you don't vote for me in the primary August 6th, you ain't gonna see me in November because I won't be on the ballot. And so a lot of our people don't even know what a primary is or when the primary is. And again, that's partly our party's fault, right? They often show up in a battleground state like Michigan with tens of millions of dollars in October saying save the country, save democracy, but they don't get us involved in the primary process. They don't pay for get out the vote work in the primary. So my campaign is having to buy all sorts of time on Black radio just to let people know there's an election August 6th, right? To do just straight out GOTV work. And so obviously any support is helpful for that, because at this point in the campaign, any dollars that come in, it goes right back out onto Black radio. And obviously TV, streaming, digital, different ways to engage folks just to educate them that there is a primary. And if you know anybody in Michigan, please get them to vote. The last Democratic primary, Black turnout in Michigan was 10%. And if 1 out of 10 people vote in this primary,
wow.
Your brother Hill Harper ain't gonna win. I'll tell you that. There's no way.
And Hill, we just put in the chat a link to donate to your campaign. If also let us know where we can make phone calls, where we can send text messages. What can we do to support you in these final days to push?
Yeah, we're doing text banking, we're doing phone banking, we're doing all of the above. So either hit me through there's a way to sign up to volunteer through the website hillharper.com, or you can also DM me. You DM me on Instagram, it's just @HillHarper. I'll connect you with the field director, and we have plenty of phone calls to be made, plenty of texts to be done. This is literally turnout work. We're in that point in the campaign. We're just trying to turn out. And what's unique about Michigan, really great voting rights, really great. And I say this all the time. Federally, I want to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights and Advancement Act. But if we actually don't vote, what good is voting rights? Like in Michigan, same day registration. If you have a felony, probation, parole, if you're in jail awaiting trial, you can vote, right? If you're 18 by November 5th, obviously you don't even need to be 18 on August 6th, you can vote. So many folks can vote. The problem is most of us don't. And so any help and any work doing that engagement, and it's going to help. And this is the deal. I got a call from 2 consultants out of DC saying, hey, man, if you can win this primary, it's going to be able to help the top of the ticket in Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's a battleground state. Why is that? Because my campaign is turning out and creating a very necessary and unique coalition here in Michigan, which is Black voters, Arab and Muslim voters, as well as people, environmentalists, the Progressive Caucus. And so having that. Now, let's be honest with this, and this is a very important point. Kamala is inheriting Joe Biden's issues with the Arab and Muslim population. And that is a real problem here in Michigan. And so this is an opportunity for her to step up and clear the record. Now, her not going to the Netanyahu address, I think, was a step in the right direction. But, there's a massive Arab and Muslim community here in Michigan that has felt very much disrespected, very much taken advantage of. They feel like they've been stabbed in the back by the Democratic Party. And, I've been fortunate to build very strong relationships in that community and to have the support of most of the leaders. Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, Osama Siblani's have endorsed, Mayor Bill Bazzi of Dearborn Heights has endorsed, the American Muslim Political Action Committee has endorsed, the American the Arab American Political Action Committee's endorsed, Engage endorsed. So all those organizations have endorsed my campaign, and I have really good relationships there. Nasser Beydoun, who was running for U.S. Senate, has endorsed, and so that's great. But there's a very great deal of skepticism, and rightly so. Let me say this, rightly so, of the Democratic Party establishment and their treatment. You know, I called for ceasefire very, very, very early on. I think I was one of the first U.S. Senate candidates in the country back in November to call for ceasefire. And the Democratic Party has a lot of work to do with the Arab and Muslim community. And Kamala can, I believe, write a new story in that regard. And she must here in Michigan to win here.
Yeah, I'm glad you meant that was my question to you, and you answered it, because I was just wondering what the tone is there, what the sentiment is there about you know, from your community on what's going on. It's gonna be tough for her, like it was tough for Biden, to convince people there that they deserve her vote, because I'm hearing that a lot. I'm hearing that a lot from folks.
But at the end of the day, it's not that tough if you're on the side of humanity, if you're on the side of human rights, if you're on the side of peace, and if you're on the side of justice. You know, at the end of the day, we look back at Dr. King during Jim Crow segregation and violence against discriminated communities. We look back at Nelson Mandela and fighting against apartheid, and again, discrimination against communities. And we have to stand on the side of human rights. We have to stand on the side of peace. We have to stand on the side of justice. And if we do that, then the community comes along. They just want fair and balanced, right? Nothing special, no special treatment. But you know, they just want fair and balanced, and that's what we have to offer. That's what we have to offer that community, and that's what I'm committed to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in New York, and I hear. I mean, just today, I don't know if I can support her because I'm too pro-Israel, and I don't. And I said, well, that's odd, because Biden has been very strong on Israel. But still, they don't think strong enough. They said a lot of their friends are voting for Donald Trump just because of his stance on Israel. And so it's surprising to me, but I think it's going to be tough for her to sort of walk that line. I thought she did a good job with her response, as you said, not going to meet with Netanyahu, and she did a good job of highlighting the issue of Gazans and Palestinians. But I think I honestly, Hill, I think it's going to be tough. And I hope they can figure it out. I hope they can figure it out.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's. Cameron Trimble is here. Oh, by the way, it's in the chat again. If you want to support Hill, look in the chat and put it on your social media. Hill, I know you've been talking to my producers, and I hope we can work it out and get you to come on before August 6th. And I think anyone who has a platform should get Hill on. Michigan is important. So
appreciate y'all. God bless.
You.
And listen, we need more representation in the U.S. Senate. So let's do this. We can get it done and have a great night. These discussions are important. And Don, you're a great leader, so I appreciate you.
Thanks you very much. I appreciate you. Cameron Trimble, the former Biden-Harris White House Digital Engagement Director and founder of Hip Hop Politics. What say you, sir?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Quentin, Khalil, Roland, and everyone on the call. Greetings today from Washington, D.C., Cameron Trimble. As he mentioned, I was the former Digital Engagement Director for the White House, and I'm here to offer a simple message and a few to-dos and to-don'ts on how to practically support Kamala Harris and her content online. This is a war for our attention and ultimately our trust. And it is being waged every moment online. While you will be inundated with TV, radio, things you can easily turn off. One thing you will never turn off, I don't know if you can see it here, is your phone. And so every moment you're online, whether you're engaging on social media, you're engaging on your favorite streaming platforms, you're engaging on online audio or any of your favorite websites, you will begin to be inundated with information that is ultimately trying to first get your attention, and secondly, either earn or erode your trust in Kamala Harris. So I briefly want to show 3 quick digital to-dos and digital do-nots. And we'll share this We'll share this. You should always share and engage positive Kamala Harris social media and digital content loudly and proudly. We are all influencers. While it's great that big entertainers and mega star power are going to share things, most people are making their decisions based on the people they already trust, follow, and know. So we are, as Black men, are creating permission structures when they see more and more of us online, building our own digital army to be able to then share that content. There's no way we can have a rapid response, and I hope we can build one, but a rapid response to fight back against the sexism, the racism, the misinformation, when things do come out from other stars and so forth, that may disparage Kamala Harris. So we're empowering you, and then as you stay tapped in with Win with Black Men and these trust organizations here who will be able to provide you with talking points, links, and so forth. Form your own WhatsApp group, Signal groups, Slack, group chats, Twitter groups, any of these things. You can also do this in Instagram and Facebook, small message groups, but we need rapid response. Things are popping up. When a Sway Lee says, don't believe and doesn't really give any facts, you need to be sharing that information in your own personal groups so that it can get out to trusted sources. And then, as you've heard a few different times, this is not necessarily just to get us to vote for Donald Trump. This misinformation and disinfo campaign is not necessarily to get us to, quote unquote, vote for Donald Trump or Republicans or others, but it is meant to erode your trust and suppress you from voting. And one of the ways they are providing disinformation and misinformation on this is on polling locations. And voter registration deadlines and rules. Every state has different voter registration, both deadlines and rules. September 17th is considered National Voter Registration Day. September 15th is considered Black Voter Registration Day. So you'll see National Black Voter Registration Day. So you'll see a lot of national efforts to get us to register, but you may hear so many different misinfo and disinfo about that. So unless you get it from a government source or a trusted, very trusted organization, do not just go by what you hear around voter registration rules, regulation dates, or polling locations. As you'll see at the bottom of this, which will be shared, a very trustworthy site, no matter what state or district you are in the union, to both be able to register and see if you're registered, is iwillvote.com. Again, iwillvote.com. Now, these are three things you should not be doing online that can either inadvertently help spread this misinformation or the negative content or help kind of get us off our square. One, do not engage with negative comments or negative content. When you engage with the comments, even if you're fighting back against a troll or arguing in the comment section, arguing or sharing with your friends and saying, look at this stupid stuff, you're actually feeding the algorithm. You're helping that you're actually prioritizing that content to be shared more widely, organically by whatever platform it is, and you're empowering the trolls. So actually the best thing to do is not engage with it, not share with it, don't save it, don't even go back in the comments on negative content. Do not amplify information or give money until you verify through a trusted source. There are going to be a lot of places saying donate here, donate there, donate here. There's going to be a lot of places that say, oh, it looks kind of real. But this is something where we're putting some of this onus back on you, is to go back and do at least one quick fact check before you're sharing anything. And that dovetails into the last point. A lot of the work we do is kind of that silent war, and to be able to track where this spending is in terms of paid media content, in terms of digital influence, in terms of content creators. It is by almost any metric. Black people, and especially the niche of Black men, are the number one target for disinformation. So please, please, please verify where you go and get that info. And then I wanted to share 3 trusted social media accounts. Now this applies to X or Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and for most of the part, even TikTok. Kamala is as simple as this, at Kamala Harris. You're going to see all the stuff that she puts out. It may not make it to TV, but it will be on her YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all of those things. And she has a simple across all those platforms at Kamala Harris. Always feel good about trusting and spreading something from that. That stuff coming directly from her and her campaign. At Kamala HQ, it is an unofficial but official, I would say, the spicier version. They speak the language of the internet. So you're going to get actually maybe more memes and information, but it is still a verified, trusted source that if there's cooler content or funnier content you want to share, always look at Kamala HQ. And again, they're on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and the like. And lastly is the Democrats. The Democratic Party will also be sharing information and content. If you want to get into sharing the different ads, sharing the fact sheets, sharing the things from those sources. There will be other sources that the Win with Black Men, and all of Collective PAC and all of our different organizations that will continue to put in the chat, continue to put in the email sources. But remember, you are all influencers, whether you've got 500 followers or 500,000 followers on any platform. When people see you posting, people see you posting, it creates a permission structure online. It gets their attention. It helps us drive more positive content. And also, which, like I said, there is a war online for Black men's trust and ultimately Black men's vote, and it is being waged every day online. So please fight back. And thank you. And thank you, Don, Khalil, Quentin, and all of the organizers of this call.
Cameron, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are behind, guys, so brevity is key here. I want to bring in DeWitt Getachew from FWD.US. DeWitt, take it away.
Thank you, Don, and thank you everyone for inviting me. Again, my name is DeWitt Getachew, and I'm the state campaign director for Forward.us. And I'm here because more and more people are realizing how important it is how we talk about criminal justice and criminal justice reform during this election. And this interest isn't just because one candidate is talking about his personal legal problems or the fact that Vice President Harris is a former prosecutor. It really reflects a broader recognition among voters, especially Black voters, about the need to address systemic issues within the criminal justice system. We all know that mass incarceration undermines the very fabric that keeps communities safe, tears apart families, and destabilizes entire neighborhoods. And we also know that criminal justice reform and public safety are not at odds with each other. And we have data that backs it up, right? Over the past decade, states that pursued policies that reduced incarceration saw their crime rates fall at a faster rate than states that didn't. Now, unfortunately, too many people, including elected leaders, are pitching this election as a battle between a prosecutor and, quote, a convicted felon. But, this sort of framing is entirely reductive and is going to be harmful by giving way to bad politics and bad policy. First, using dehumanizing terms like felon ostracizes millions of Americans, including potential voters who have a felony record or have been impacted by the criminal justice system. Normalizing this type of language flattens the experience of nearly 1 in 3 Black men who have a criminal conviction as nothing more than being, a record. And more importantly, we know that historically that the use of harmful language has often been coupled with punitive policies that has led to more Black men and boys getting locked up. So we can't afford to fall back into these types of harmful narratives. And getting the message right on criminal justice reform and safety is going to be critical for this election, and it's only going to become more relevant as we get closer to election day. And it's also important because, as we have seen, polling shows that voters, especially Black voters, want candidates who support criminal justice reform and who support candidates who are pursuing solutions that increase both safety and justice. And in the recent national poll we conducted, more than 7 in 10 Black men said they would be more likely to vote for a candidate that supports reforms. And we heard from Terrence earlier that there is a major upside in articulating a strong stance in both safety and justice. And so given the importance of this issue to voters, there's an opportunity to contrast the policy positions of the candidates and call out the specific harmful actions and policy positions of each candidate related to safety and criminal justice reform. So we have, Vice President who has publicly recognized that the war on drugs has failed. And, as others has mentioned, As a prosecutor, she was an early supporter of reentry and diversion programs for people charged with drug crimes. As a senator, she supported efforts to decriminalize cannabis, including the Marijuana Justice Act and the MORE Act, which she introduced while she was in the Senate Judiciary Committee. On the other hand, we have a candidate, Donald Trump, who's called for the death penalty for people who sell drugs. We've also seen Harris support efforts to increase fairness and the pretrial system. She's voiced support to ending federal mandatory minimum sentences and eliminating the crack and powder cocaine disparity repeatedly. And so there is a record that we can point to with Vice President Harris. And just one thing that I think has not been getting attention that it deserves, but in the current administration with the Biden-Harris administration, they have really activated the U.S. Sentencing Commission, which is the agency that issues guidelines for federal sentencing policies that's followed by all federal courts. And the commission was really dormant during the prior administration because there weren't enough members for a quorum. Under the current administration and the chairmanship of Judge Carlton Reeves, who was appointed by President Biden, the commission has advanced 2 cycles of amendments for policies that have safely reduced excessive prison terms and really brought hundreds of people home to their communities. And we can also point to the clemencies that have been granted under this administration, which is more than any past administration during this point in their presidency. And on the other hand, we have a candidate who has repeatedly called for expanding qualified immunity for police officers, which shields them from accountability and for expanding stop and frisk. So we really have to highlight the policy positions of the candidates and really call out harmful policy positions that will endanger the lives of Black folks. So we can look at the record and articulate those repeatedly, and ultimately, I think that that will give voters a clear and stark choice between the candidates.
Joey, thank you. I appreciate that. John Taylor's here, Black Men Bill. John. Is John up? Is John there? Unmute if you're there, John.
John is here.
Hey, John, how are you, man? Thank you for joining. What you got? Thank you.
Good evening, brothers. Khalil, thank you for having us on the call. I really just wanted to start by saying, Jeff, you hit the nail on the head a little earlier, brother. The reality is that, for hundreds of thousands of us, we have concerns and questions about the system in and of itself. It's less about Kamala Harris, although we'll be clear about the fact that most of the brothers that I've talked to felt like we were in a downward spiral, unfortunately, with President Biden and had a real concern. Over the last week and a half, we've seen a surge in enthusiasm and energy and all those things we think are important. But at the end of the day, for us, we're clear about the fact that we want to see a material condition shift on the ground for Black men. We want to be in a situation where Black men are not scapegoated or considered the problem. If you look at a race with 6 people in it, there's never a time when the second fastest runner is looked at as the loser of the race. And that's Black men. Since the inception of voting for us, we have been the second highest voting bloc of progressives in this country. So there's no question that we show up and show out. The question is, what does it look like for us if we are disenchanted? Not disengaged, but we're upset, we're frustrated, we have questions. So there's a population of Black men who, quite frankly, are not excited about Kamala Harris, and that's okay. But the thing we can't do is automatically paint them with a brush of misogyny if they don't want to vote for Kamala Harris. The question is, what would it take for you to support this candidate? What is it we need to unpack and you need to understand? What is it that we have to talk about so that you get the most critical thing in our base, which is that you're not choosing your champion. You're already choosing your opposition. This is a system that we have struggled with since slavery. We understand that. So you are choosing the landscape upon which you're going to fight. And you got to ask yourself some critical questions. Are you going to be able to fight against an administration and a system that is eroding the very infrastructure that makes it possible for you to fight for better for your families, Or are you going to do better fighting against the system who on paper and in practice works in your favor? But you have to figure out how to mobilize, activate, and grow into it. I think that there are a lot of brothers who have valid concerns and valid questions, but this is not a moment when we can sit on the sidelines. So it is critically important that we make sure when we talk to brothers that we're not ostracizing them, that in our opinion, we're not shooting them down, we're not dismantling their arguments. This isn't an argument. This isn't a debate. We're asking simple questions. Do you want to have power in 2025 and beyond? Do you want a Department of Labor? Do you want a Department of Education? Do you want your children to be able to have access to quality schools and quality foods? We knocked on over 150,000 doors during our primary this cycle. And the top 3 concerns that we found in Georgia, we found in 10 other states: housing inequity, food insecurity, and underemployment. The reality is those things change when we vote, when Black men are engaged. And the biggest message that we're sending is, I don't need you to trust her. So this goes back to what Jeff said. I really love this. I don't need you to trust the system. I don't need you to love it and blindly have faith in it. I need you to be critical of it. I need you to ask questions. But most importantly, I need you to show up and vote. Voting just gets you a ticket into the park. That does not get you on the rides. Your civic engagement, the work we do every day, is so important beyond our vote. Most of us, even those that vote, will show up, will vote, and then that's it until the next election. We have to mobilize our community now, get them in the streets, and keep them in the streets for the next 365 days. Not just protesting, but doing work in our communities. So it starts with your vote, but the work that you give to your community every day is really the thing that's going to make sure that a Harris presidency bears fruit and benefits our community. Because at the end of the day, that's one seat, that's one person, that's one vote. She needs our support and our help to win. Thank you.
Don, you're still muted, but while you come back off, I'll just say thank you to
I
all
got
the
it.
viewers.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Go for it. Go ahead. You can say it.
No. Just thank you to everybody who's asking their questions in the chat. Professor Silent, I don't know the answer to your question about reparations for Black Americans of Vice President Harris, but we can pass that along to the campaign. On our next call, we'll try to get that. I know there's others who have asked questions. Quentin and I are feverishly trying to answer them.
There's
Michael,
one that people have been asking about 2025. Are we going to get to that? And I wanted to know if talking about 2025 is Project 2025, is it effective? Does that win anybody over? Or do their eyes just glaze over when you talk about project? That would be a great question for Terrence Woodbury, but I don't know if he's still on the call.
Well, I know Quentin and I have been thinking about this, and Mike Blake has been working on this as well. Ambrose, we're going to come to you next in just a second. I am concerned about Project 2025, but what I am happy and hopeful for is that we are finally going to be able to figure out a way that African Americans, especially Black men, can think about this process well before the next president gets to the United States. So before transition comes, before the inauguration comes, whoever is there, we're thinking about, is your resume correct? Are your taxes taken care of? Have you gotten anything that you needed expunged? But just we're talking about criminal justice reform. Have we already done the steps to create our own Project 2025 for Black Americans that can get their resumes to the top and ready to go when the next administration comes? Quentin, what say you, my friend?
Yeah, there's we're going to put a resource in the chat, the People's Guide to Project 2025, but just 5 things that you should know about Project 2025 as it relates to Black people. Number 1, it will ban African American history from our classrooms, just flat out. Number 2, it will cut Social Security and Medicare benefits for Black Americans. 3, it will eliminate anti-discrimination rules from a housing policy. 4, it will expand the police state by sending federal troops into cities with Black DAs. And then lastly, number 5, it'll worsen Black maternal mortality crisis by eliminating access to reproductive care. So again, we'll get all this information to you all and have, again, a much deeper conversation about this problem and challenge. But what I would say to you all, I think, is between last Monday and this week, we are simply, number 1, creating safe space. Black men, we are not a monolith. We know there are so many brothers who are, fit a range of different political ideologies. What we want to do is convene everybody and then do a few things together that will make a huge positive impact on this election. So number one, what we did last week, we raised money. And what we decided is that we would raise money for both the Kamala Harris campaign and to also support groups, grassroots groups on the ground, leaders like yourselves who are here to fund organizing work targeting Black men. And so in the chat, you all have a link to apply for grants from those dollars. Please do that by this coming Wednesday so that on our next call, we can announce where those funds will be going to support, again, efforts to turn out Black men across the country. That'll be number one. Number two, I think what you're going to hear in the next call as well is we want to now get this down to the state and city level. And so we'll be organizing folks into.
When you're cutting out.
Q, we're losing you.
Yeah, you're cutting out. We're losing you, man.
But I think John Taylor just said he's setting up conversations in Georgia about how Project 2025 would directly impact the lives on the ground in the state. I know others are. Khalil Seren, we do hear you. Thomas Page, no, chat is still going. Sean Taylor, thank you for your question.
And Khalil, also Project 2025, the immunity for police officers is huge. That's huge for Black men.
Exactly.
Huge for Black people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don, I'll turn it back over to you. I know Ambrose is waiting to go next.
No, we're good. Ambrose Lane, I like the questions. I think it's good because people, and we'll see if we can get a few more in. Ambrose Lane is Black Men for Harris 2025. Go ahead, Ambrose.
Thank you, brothers. And let me just start by saying that I appreciate all you brothers. Sometimes we got to stop for a moment, just give appreciation to the effort. Right. And that's very, very important. And to the brothers in the leadership, Win with Black Men Vote, and other organizations, I just appreciate the scope and the range of thought and the brilliance that is emerging out of Black men. So I just wanted to say that first. 4 years ago, there was an effort called Black Men for Biden Harris. That organization in the DMV, and I'm hailing from Washington, D.C. right now, that effort morphed into Black men working together, led by Brother Frank Malone with 100 Fathers. And through that effort, we created Million Man Vote, which is intended on registering Black men to vote and getting them to the polls. But now we have Black Men for Harris that we just started, and that is in the purpose of Black Men for Harris is to do a number of different things. First, to get Vice President Kamala Harris elected as President of the United States. We will also collaboratively participate in voter engagement and education. We will register Black men to vote where it is needed, and we'll participate in activities to get Black men to the polls for early voting by mail and in person, and on November 4th. We also intend on advocating against Project 2025. As a matter of fact, part of our group, and I was on the call with Khalil. I want to thank Khalil for getting me on this call. Part of our group, we talked about going to the Heritage Foundation, which is one of the foundations responsible for Project 2025, and letting them know that it will not work, and actually getting in their faces and meeting with them and saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this kind of thing. And then lastly, we want to assist in creating a national Black men's agenda. We've talked about it kind of here and there. I know, Khalil, you have talked about a number of different policy pieces. And so Million Man Vote, as well as Black Men for Harris, we've gone around DC and we've talked to about 750 Black men and boys from ages 8 to age 80. And so we've done this for the past year and a half, and we have some very interesting results. I am very appreciative of Terrence Woodbury's report, because that's just brilliant what he just shared with us. But one of the things, there are two things that I'm going to point out. The first thing is that in every conversation that we've had with Black men and boys, economics always comes to the top of the list. Always. It doesn't matter what your background is. If you are 16 or 15 years old, these are young men that are trying to make it, but they would love to have cash assistance. And so when we talk about guaranteed basic income programs and cash assistance programs, there's 3 states that give cash assistance programs to youth, and they have kept those youth out of trouble, out of incarceration. And as a matter of fact, those youth have been more interested in civic responsibility, as well as taking better care of their health. So we know that guaranteed basic income and cash assistance programs work. If you're an older brother in between 18 and 25 and you don't have a job, you need a job. That's an economic issue. If you do have a job, you want a better job or better pay. And if you're a businessman, you want access to capital to expand your business. So no matter where you are in life in your economic journey, economics always rises to the top of the list in terms of the issues that we face. And there are certainly other issues. But there was one other thing that was brought up on this call about the difficulty in getting Black men out to vote. And I'll say this. So when you talk about the Biden-Harris administration, they have lowered the Black unemployment rate to historic lows. I mean, the lowest rate in more than 50 years. But 2 neighborhoods over from where I live, the Black unemployment rate is 24%. So when you talk to the men in that neighborhood, they mistakenly attribute that to what Biden and Harris did not do for them. And so we have to have the reality of the conversation that not everything is coming down to the local level that affects people on the individual basis. We always say politics is local, and we've got to drive the local politics as well so that those policies reflect what it is that we're really trying to do. So, in DC, the unemployment rate for Black people is between 2 and 3 times the national Black unemployment rate. So we have to deal with those realities when we're talking about getting Black people to vote and Black men to vote, because they're also dealing with what the economics of their personal lives are in their personal communities. And so that's one thing that we want to say. Now, in terms of where we want to focus on DC, Maryland, and Virginia, certainly Maryland, and really helping the Senate campaign of Angela Alsobrooks, in the down ballot races in Maryland. But we also want to look at the Richmond to Tidewater, Norfolk area in Southern Virginia. Y'all got to remember, Virginia just voted for a Republican governor. So it's a purple state. And even though every little bit helps, we need to turn Virginia back to blue so that we can affect the Electoral College vote. We know that the other battleground states, Michigan, Ohio, those are important states. But Virginia is an important state as well because it is a purple state. Sometimes it goes red, sometimes it goes blue. So that's going to be our focus. And so, Quentin, I will be getting in contact with you about applying, because we want to hire Black men to reach out to Black men in Southern Virginia, as well as in DC and Maryland for the Alsobrooks campaign, because her campaign is a critical campaign in keeping the Senate. So these are important pieces, even though Maryland's not battleground. It's still an important state when it comes to maintaining the Senate. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for this call and thank everybody for what you all are doing. We will continue to be in collaboration. Black Men for Harris will be in collaboration with Win with Black Men Vote, and all the other organizations that are a part of this. So I appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I just spoke with Wes Moore 2 days ago, and it's up on, and I talked to him about the Senate race for a little bit, and it's up on my channel on YouTube, the Don Lemon Show channel. And it's interesting that, yes, that is a very important race, and we need to pay attention to it and all the help that we can get. So thank you, Ambrose, for that. I think this is also important too, Quentin and Khalil, if you're listening. John Groom in the chat wants to know, can you send out all these great links appearing in the chats to the attendees or registrants of this event instead of just to the hosts? I can keep up and register with them all. I think it's important for that stuff to go wide. How do you get that stuff out? Are you going to send it out to everybody?
We'll do a recap email probably by Tuesday or Monday afternoon. We'll get all these links together, hyperlink them, get some graphics in there. But yes, everybody will get the email with all the information, especially the grant information, so people can apply and get them back to you by Wednesday. We want to get this money in and get it right back out to the organizations that are doing the work on the ground.
So, Jeff,
let me just make one last comment, because it was something that we talked about at our Black Men for Harris meeting earlier today. One of the things that I'm going to challenge and suggest is that in the states, as we approach August and September, that we think about as a strategy, putting out a call for Black men to gather in the state capitals by at least mid to late September to energize and galvanize Black men for early voting. If we have Black men gather in all of the state capitals around the country as a prelude to energizing the Black male vote in those states for early voting, whether or not those are in-person early voting or by ballot, mail ballot. We should do that. And we should get as many Black men to gather in the state capitals as we can. And then maybe at the end, to culminate at the mid-October to the end of October, have 1 million men gather in Washington, D.C. That I would love to do.
That's a good idea. A mini million man march around the Capitol.
Exactly. In support of Kamala Harris.
Right. And then a big one in DC. That's a fantastic idea.
I love how the great minds are thinking. We are going to join with our sisters. We're already trying to do a 1 million person Zoom with them. And our Zoom representative told me that we can't accommodate it on Zoom. They've never done that before. But we're going to try to figure out a way that we can get 1 million of us together. Ambrose, I love the idea, and we were working on it earlier, but we don't have all the great ideas. I know John Taylor was going to highlight something that's happening on the ground in Georgia about Black jobs. I want to give him a second, and then I'll go to Quentin and me, and then try to get some more Q&A.
Absolutely. There's 3 things going on. One is that we have a National Black Worker Expo, Working While Black Expo in August 2nd and 3rd in Chicago, Illinois, hosted by the Chicago Teachers Union. It's an amazing opportunity for folks to come out, have these conversations, talk about what's happening in Black households, working as a Black person or person of color. And the reality is that there are very few spaces where Black folks get to have that conversation about their working while Black story, get to have a conversation about what it means for them economically. And there will be some huge conversations, not just about this election cycle, but the impacts of Project 2025, Agenda 47 and other pieces. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that Black Men Build is running their national New Men's Tour in a number of locations around the country. They'll be in Atlanta on September 7th. I'm going to drop the link for you, Khalil, in the chat so that if brothers are interested in coming out, we want you to come out. We want you to participate. These conversations that are happening on these calls, which are amazing, are happening in real time in cities all over the U.S. with groups of 50, 100, 150 Black men. We're seeing it. We're watching the shift happen, and we're proud of it. So we want every brother on this call to be able to tap in, not just to join the conversation, but to have your voice actually be heard and be part of the solution.
Yeah. Khalil, I got to say, that was a very good idea, because this election is going to be really about turnout. And every pollster and every focus group person I speak to says they're concerned about new people coming in, right? There's a lot of enthusiasm, but the real difference is going to be getting new voters to come in to support Kamala Harris in order to get her into office. You heard what Terrence said about white men and about white Christians and older Christians or whatever, older people supporting Joe Biden, and those people may not turn out for Kamala Harris. But you're gonna, if there's an issue with Black men and disinformation, I think getting them together in as big a group, small groups, and then as big a group as possible, I think that's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to keep it moving. Nano influencers, micro influencers. I learned that from Cameron Trimble and others. And Don, if you could you go to Reverend Stephen Green? I know he's got a jump.
Yeah.
He's been on. Just want to make
I
sure.
didn't say, yeah, Reverend. Yeah, go Reverend Stephen Green. Go on.
Wow, thank you, brothers. It is indeed an honor to be on this call. Thank you, Brother Thompson and Brother James, and to all who have been here. Don, thank you for hosting. I know this is a work of art. But I just want to say that from the faith community, we are just so grateful to be in partnership with this effort to mobilize Black men. And I would just ask that we all just tap into the Black men in our church, Black men in our communities who are a faith or part of members of the faith community. There's, as you all know, there's a strong contingent of our brothers who are a part of a sect, if you will, of Hebrew Israelites. And so we want to make sure that we have an approach to speak to brothers from all aspects of the faith traditions, from the Nation of Islam all the way to members of the Baptist deacons in our community. And we ground ourselves in a sense of purpose and recognize that this moment requires us to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with the Creator. Just very grateful to be a part of this effort and honored to be a part of this team of folks. I want to just say something that Brother Michael Blake and I, and along with Tamika Mallory and others, have been working on as a counter to Project 2025 is what we're calling Project Freedom. The website is ourprojectfreedom.com. It's a 17 policy initiatives that counter, if you will, the Project 2025 agenda that is aspirational and pushes us to the future we wish to create instead of the fear that we've been called to live in with Project 2025. So we invite you to look into that, to learn more about that, so that we can begin to counter it, not just with trying to push back, but to really push for something. It was Mother Teresa said, I will not go to a anti-war rally. I will only go to a pro-peace rally. So we need something that is not just anti, we need something that is positive, something that is aspirational, something that pushes us to the beloved world community. So very grateful for this time and looking forward to working together with this coalition of brothers who are on the ground, and looking forward to continuing to build a coalition as we engage the faith community arm in arm in the work that we're doing.
Thanks, Reverend Khalil.
Don, thank you so much. And thank you for being our second moderator here.
I'm trying to get some of the names are not there, and you know what I mean. So I hope I did okay.
No, you did amazing. Tonight was great. I know we're rounding out the corner, and thank you to the faithful that are still on, all 1,600 of you that are still rocking with us this morning. And Rev, I know you're supposed to give the closing prayer, but I had to jump. I want to say that my pastor, Howard John Wesley of Alfred Street Baptist Church, we were finishing off this month in the Hour of Power, looking at Jonah and his road to Nineveh and back. And when God called him and gave him another chance, I think we all as a country have another chance to do right. We made a mistake in 2016. I believe we made a mistake. I believe we went down the wrong path, and we have the chance now, another chance to make the right choice and choose the right person to lead this country. I believe Vice President Kamala Harris is that person to lead us down that path, to get us, this country, back on the footing and continue on the footing that we are on with President Biden. I want to thank everyone who is here as a call to action to make sure you register to vote. If you are not, if you are on the fence about voting, you take the points and the policies and positions that we shared with you tonight. It was important that we had Terrence Woodbury, Terrence Green, and we had others here to bring the facts, because Brother Jeff Johnson and others to share what you have. Yes, your vote matters. We've seen a 7% increase in voter registrations for African-American men since 2022. So the misnomer and the red herring that we're not where we need to be, yes, we could do better. Our sisters are beating us, but we have to not only increase, but continue to go farther. Again, it's winwithblackmen.org. We appreciate all of you who signed up, who sent questions. Forgive us this meteoric change over this last week. We are growing our capacity on the back end and bringing more team members on to help. But we're not just a monolith here. We appreciate all the variety of thoughts. We've been intentional to have people that come from various different communities in our Black community. So it's not just our urban centers. We talked about last time, and Roland jokingly put on the cowboy hat. You might go to tractor pulls. You might wear J's. You might be out in the sunny side in California. You might be up in Maine. We want every Black man, or blue collar, white collar, or no collar, to participate in this conversation and be here tonight. I would not do this without the great thanks to my board, Brian Wood, Aaron Jenkins, who is my minister and friend, who's always there with me, Tommy Jones, Sam Johnson. We're really trying to make sure that we engage young Black men between 18 to 30. A lot of times we get the older heads in here who, rightly so, have a lot of knowledge that want to share, but we have young Black brothers who have a voice that needs to be listened to and needs to be heard in these spaces. And I would be remiss if I didn't say there are other groups that formed tonight. Africans for Kamala Harris, Veterans for Kamala Harris, Teron Sims, thank you for pulling that together. Black expat for her are coming together, as well as Caribbean Americans. Last but not least, I would say if anybody on this call was convicted of 34 felonies, you would not be on this call. You would be on lockdown, you would be in a Supermax prison, and you would not be moving. You wouldn't have a cell phone, you wouldn't be on Zoom, you wouldn't be communicating. So just imagine what that's like. I'm sure the vitriol that we all feel, unfortunately, that many of us in our community, especially many Black men, come into contact with the criminal justice system under some type of supervision or some type of engagement. I don't wish to harp on that, but that's just the truth. But imagine if you had 34 felonies. Could you fly on a private jet to go get rallied? Could you meet with donors to give to your campaign? Could you take telephone calls whenever you want? Could you hug your family, see your wife, see your children, see your partner? I believe the answer is no. So then allowing that person to be hired for another job, because many of us, if we check the box for a simple weed conviction, would not be able to get a job. 34 felonies, and you can have the highest, most important job in the land for the most powerful country in the land, I think says something. So we are making sure that we do our part to make sure that we get every Black man to understand the fact. Thank you to Dawit. Thank you to others that jumped on tonight and shared information. And I really appreciate all that have come here. Don, I turn it back over to you and to my brother Quentin. I just want to say thank you, and thank you to everybody who showed up tonight.
But Khalil, before you go, there's someone, I think David Lewis is in the chat. He says a link for a donation. That's important. We need money.
Yes.
And where do they go to donate?
Sure, you can go to womenblackmen.org and click donate, or you can go to atblue.com/donate/TCP-Kamala. I got that right, Quentin?
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat right now for everybody.
Perfect. But if you go to the website, womenblackmen.org, it's the third button over to the right, click donate, and you can go ahead and donate there. That'll redirect you to the site that Quentin is sending you to right now.
Quentin?
Again, don't want to rehash too much. We're over the 9 o'clock hour, but want to thank again Don, Roland for leading our conversations tonight. All the brothers who are still here, thank you, and who stopped by tonight, thank you. We're going to support each other. Khalil and I are not here to kind of be quote unquote, leaders at the top. We're all working collaboratively together. We are now in a brotherhood. And so we want to make sure you all get resources, talking points, information, research, so that we're doing work effectively. And I just want to kind of bring back up the point that Jeff brought up, which is what I'm kind of calling is like, this work is going to be from the streets to the suites. And so many of us who, may occupy, these positions and jobs and kind of these inner circle DC conversations, that's great. But this is going to be one hand-to-hand combat on the streets, at bars and in nightclubs, in restaurants and barbershops. A lot of barbers who are on the line tonight. We have not forgotten about you, your convening power. We want to kind of launch Barbers for Harris as well with you all. So let's talk about that. But we want to use the vastness of the Black community to organize our people and to make sure we're having some real conversations. There are a lot of questions you all have tonight that we don't have the answers to. I don't have, a fact sheet about her time as Attorney General or prosecutor in San Francisco. We hope to get that to you over the next couple of days and weeks. But the last thing I would just say is, if there's one thing we can all take away tonight and do together, that is to have our sisters back. We would not let anybody talk to our mothers, our sisters, our daughters the way that people are talking about our vice president currently online.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a balance, as Cameron said, to not responding to the negative comments and not feeding the algorithms. But at the same time, we are Black men, and there are things that we're not going to tolerate when it comes to treating Black women, in our opinion, the most qualified Black woman to be president, from those who are out there. And so you can disagree on policy, you can have questions on policy, we understand that, but we're not going to allow that type of rhetoric to define this woman who has, again, a tremendous career and record to speak for itself. And so again, don't want to belabor the point. Pass it back over to you, Don, to close us out. But thank you all so much. We'll be in touch with resources via email and text message over the next few days.
I just want to be quick, gentlemen, you two stay here because I just a couple things I see. So link for people saying there's not enough links for donations, okay? Kevin Perry says, where can we get the Win with Black Men shirt that Khalil had on? Is that merch on the website?
It's going to be on the website by the end of the week. We actually had to build out the store this weekend, so everybody can start buying it by the end of the week.
Okay. When is the next Zoom? Ronald Jones wants to know.
It's not going to be next weekend. It's the weekend after that. The following Sunday. That's going to be, I'm checking right now.
August 11th?
August 11th.
All right. This is lightning round. Hey, fellas, would y'all be able to get Black men like, let's say Lil Baby, Quavo, John Legend, even Common, to speak and help bring their audience to understand what's at stake and the concerns that they may have? I got to tell you, you guys can answer that. I was talking to Stevie Wonder yesterday. I said, Stevie, I would love for you and Kendrick to hook up and do, and sort of, do a higher ground and they not like us something to whatever. But how do you answer that? Are you guys trying to get that?
Yeah, anybody, please DM us, reach out to us. We we want everybody to participate. So there's yeah, I can't think of the words right now, but a long day. But yeah, so reach out, please let us know. We would love to have anybody join us.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about the t-shirts, and I think the money is important. A lot of folks asking about Project 2025, and so they address that. And I think that's about it. So I think we should let you go. Is a reverend going to give us the benediction?
No, actually, Don, we want to hear your final word, actually, Don, from you.
So listen, I want to say I'm happy to be in an independent space where I don't have to worry about the corporate overlords now, where I can stand up for democracy, where I can say who I'm supporting. I'm on the side of democracy, and I'm on the side of people who are someone who's going to help our people. I'm not on the side of Project 2025. I'm not going to pretend to put these two campaigns on equal footing and equal, at an equal level, because that's not what it is. And also, I think that instead of amplifying, I do agree with the young man who said, do not respond. If you want to respond, look, that's your business. We have heard enough about Donald Trump. We've heard enough about MAGA. They're over-indexed in all of the news coverage. And all of the news coverage you see on cable and traditional television and radio. Everyone wants to know, what do we need to know about the MAGA people? We need to understand them. Well, people need to understand Black people in this election, because that's who's going to decide this election. So I run in a lot of different circles, and the worst things that I hear about Kamala Harris comes from white men, straight white men. They can't really explain why they don't like her. They just know that they don't like her, and they send out the worst memes about her, say the worst shit about her. And when they do that, I confront them to their faces. So you got to confront them to their faces, and you got to ask them why, and then tell them the truth about her record, and then also tell them that they have a first lady in the White House who came from questionable means, and who is a model and naked. I don't see Kamala Harris doing any shit like that. Pardon my French. But anyway, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for the brotherhood. And I think that's the right message. Everybody is different. We got straight brothers, we got gay brothers, we got light skins, we got dark skins, we got educated, we got non-educated, we got blue collar, we got white collar. We're all brothers. We're all Black, and we're all rooting for the same thing. So we have to be on the same team this time. No dissension. So anytime you guys need me, I'm here. And I think that should be our message and our mood moving forward. So thank you guys for allowing me to do this. And I so appreciate what you're doing, and just keep it up, keep it up. I spoke to James Carville. You know James Carville, right? You guys know who James Carville is, the great James Carville, political strategist down in Louisiana. And he said, this has been great for Kamala Harris. He thinks Kamala Harris can win, that she is qualified, and he likes the enthusiasm, but he wants to see the same enthusiasm in October and November. Otherwise, it will not be possible. And I'll leave you with that.
Thanks, Don. Good night, everybody.
Good night.